Hello everyone, this is part 11 of What If Naruto and Hinata Had a Kid, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Hinata stood on her knees with her wet daughter in front of her wrapped in a fluffy white towel. They rubbed the small girl's body through the towel as she jabbered toddler nonsense to which Hinata acted wonderfully interested in. Once out dry, Hinata pulled on her daughter's white cotton nightdress while the girl still talked, this time about what Kenji did to her on the playground the other day. Well, why did you let Kenji do that? He surprised me. Next time I see him, he gonna hurt. The tiny girl punched her fists in the air and her mother tried to hide an amused smile. No, Hinata corrected, holding her daughter's tiny fists in her own long fingers. We don't hurt people, Yumi. Hinata said in all seriousness. It was always a fear that her daughter would rescue her husband's job from something that needed to be done, into some heroic justice of pain. But Kenji, no matter, you're a lady while Kenji is a boy. And ladies are nice, Hinata said in her motherly tone, leading her daughter out of the bathroom to comb her hair. The girl's brilliant blue eyes narrowed at this. Hinata again tried not to laugh at narrowed pouting eyes, it was all too familiar and it warmed every part of her heart. Daddy would say it was okay. Yumi countered. No, Daddy would say to be nice. Hinata stated. Daddy would say to show Kenji how to be nice and not seek revenge. Hinata again stressed this important life lesson. With another sound of disagreement, Yumi crossed her arms on her chest once she was sitting on the bed. Hinata moved behind her with a brush and gently started to comb out her daughter's thick tangles. After a moment, Yumi spoke again. What revenge? Revenge? Hinata paused, trying to find the best way to word it for her daughter's fragile mind. Is doing something bad to someone because they did something bad to you. But if they did bad, then, Yumi turned and scrunched up her face, trying to word her thoughts. They get punished. Like you punish me when I do bad. Hinata shook her head but smiled warmly at her daughter. To Hinata, it was very important her daughter know these things. She would not raise her daughter to believe such acts of violence were ever justified unless completely unavoidable to save your own life or those you loved. Revenge was never something Hinata ever wished the girl to experience. I punish you because you do not do as you're told. I do not punish you for no reason. Wanting to hurt someone just because you think they hurt you is a bad thing, Yumi. I never want you thinking that way about someone. Hinata said in a serious yet non-threatening tone. There was a long moment of silence where Hinata finished combing her daughter's long hair and the girl gave a small sigh. Okay, she said, turning to her mother. I won't hurt Kenji, but it was still mean. Yes, it was. I'll speak to his mother when I see her, okay? Seeming to be satisfied with this sense of justice, Yumi nodded before her face turned bright again. Read me a story. Choose. Hinata said with a warm smile on her face. When Yumi jumped up and went to her small bookshelf of children's books, Hinata readied the white bedspread to be slept in that night. When Yumi climbed back in, she handed her mother the book and Hinata smiled. Cinderella. Hinata gave a little laugh, this time settling next to her daughter in her bed over the covers. My favorite, Yumi said as if it was supposed to be the most obvious thing in the world. Hinata let her daughter snuggle close and she began reading the children's fairy tale. It wasn't long into the story did Yumi's breathing become deep and rhythmic. Glancing over at the girl's sleeping form, Hinata closed the book and removed herself from the bed. With one last kiss goodnight, she crossed the room, turning off the light. Marriage, huh? Suna eyed both teens with a glare before giving them a tired sigh when they both nodded in unison. Naruto had been home for 3 days, and after the first 2 days rekindling their love, they both had a serious talk and decided it was time to put their plans into motion. Hinata confided in Naruto the talk of the town, only under interrogation from her boyfriend though. She also told Naruto of her lack in secrecy when she blabbed to Sakura and then Neji of all people about the said engagement. And after assuring Naruto he was not on her cousin's death list, they talked a little longer of what the next step would be. The result of the conversation ended in Naruto making a firm decision that they should tell everyone now, or as he said it, might as well confirm the rumors. So here they were, standing before their village cage announcing their sudden, but very serious engagement. There was protocol to be taken, however. There was a question and answer section that had to be administered before preparations of a wedded union could take place. Sunad pinched the bridge of her nose between her eyes. She looked like she was getting a sudden headache, and with a sigh she straightened it up. Very well, Naruto, I'm going to ask you to leave the room while I talk to Hinata alone. Why? Naruto asked, suddenly getting suspicious. I have to ask Hinata questions regarding this decision without you in the room. Sunad explained. When she is done, I will call you in and we will repeat the process. Once I have heard your individual answer, I will make the finale decision if you are fit to marry each other. Fit to marry? Naruto repeated. That doesn't seem fair. If you don't like our answers, then you won't marry us. This didn't seem right to Hinata either. She knew there would be an interview with the cage, but she had no idea so much was riding on their individual answers. This was suddenly getting very unnerving. You are both Konoha shinobi and we are under special circumstance regarding Hinata's condition and family as well as your own. Sunad said calmly, though tension rose in the room. Naruto, if you please, she gestured to the door. I will call you in once we are done. Naruto did not nod to the woman but turned on his heel, leaving in a sulk. He flashed Hinata one last look and small smile before shutting the door, leaving Hinata alone and suddenly very nervous. Hinata, Sunad wasted no time. Are you here on your own accord? Why yes, Hinata said, instantly uneasy at the woman's intense stare. Is your decision to marry Uzumaki Naruto yours and yours alone? Yes, you are in no way here under false pretenses or promises to share your life with Uzumaki Naruto. Hokage, please answer the question. Hinata. No, I'm not. I am here under my own free will and wish to marry Naruto. Sunad seemed to hide a smirk. You understand that as Konoha shinobi, you and Naruto are both still under my command and will still act to aid Konoha in any way I see fit. Yes, you will still take your job as my ninja first and foremost. Why yes, but Hokage, I am currently not a ninja. If and when I call for you, Hinata, will you aid Konoha? Yes. There was a pause between them, and while Hinata was sure she understood the nature of these questions, she couldn't help but feel very uneasy at her Hokage's behavior. Normally Sunad would practically gush at their relationship, constantly arguing that Naruto needed to pick up on many of Hinata's good manners. Now it seemed that Sunad was doing everything subtly in her power to go against their wishes. Hinata was suddenly affronted by those notions and her guard went up. Hinata, Sunad said, her tone very serious again. Hinata looked up innocently but curious. You know what lies within Naruto, don't you? Yes, Hinata answered without hesitation. She was bringing this up now. Then you know there are certain people who have cared to get their hands on it. Hinata stared, almost surprised. She knew the stories, but not in detail. She never pressed Naruto on the subject and he never offered, but she had picked up a few things along the way. Why yes, Hinata, you understand, if word gets out Naruto has a wife and child, you and your child could be in grave danger. Lady Hokage, please answer the question. Hinata. Yes, I know. I also know those people are not the only one against me and Naruto. Hinata visibly gulped under the woman's hard stare and the memories of that talk with her cousin. I do not mean to make you uncomfortable, Hinata, but you need to understand all that could be at stake. I do not want to sway your decision, but before you go through with it, you need to understand all that it implies. Who you are and who Naruto are can play big factors on the life of your child and its future. Hinata went silent at the blonde woman's words. It was her fears. The thoughts she had when Naruto was away. The fears that this would happen, that someday someone would pick up on the two and a mother's greatest fears would come true. The Uzumaki name can have a heavy price on its head in the ninja world as well as Hyuga. If it was indeed found out the Kyuubi container had a child who was a Hyuga, at that the child would be in grave danger if that information got into the wrong hands. But then again, wasn't that something she already faced as a full-blooded Hyuga and Konoha ninja? Wasn't that something Naruto faced all his life? She shook her head and looked up at her Hokage. She had made a promise, a pact with her child. No harm would ever come to it as long as she was still breathing. With all due respect, Lady Hokage, Hinata said, even with a small bow at her words. I am well aware of Naruto's and I position not only as Konoha shinobi but as our names as well. But I am certain in my decision, I have been so for a long time. I will marry Naruto, be his wife faithfully and a mother to our child. A tense few seconds passed, which to Hinata felt more like a few minutes before Tsunade's serious face broke into a smile. Please ask Naruto to come in and wait in the hall until we call for you. Tsunade said, her tone amused along with her face. Hinata wasn't sure if she liked that tone or face on the woman. When she opened the door, Naruto was standing against the wall, what looked like deep in thought. His face lit up the moment he saw her and he smiled widely. She opened the door wider and motioned it was his turn before giving him a loving look and shutting the door behind her. Once outside, Hinata let out a great big sigh before dropping all her weight on one of the benches that lay outside the office. She looked toward the closed door. She had half a mind to lean her ear up against it, but seeing as the door was soundproof, that would prove to be useless. What was Tsunade asking him? Was it the same questions? Did he answer in the same way? Did he understand exactly what she did? Did he know more or did he know less? Were they even talking about her? The questions were endless and Hinata's wait seemed to last longer than her own interview did. She was halfway between getting hungry and for some reason beginning to feel tired again. The door opened again and with a smile Naruto nodded her in. When they were back in their previous spots in front of the village cage, Naruto surprised her by taking his hands in hers. She accepted it and laced their fingers together. He gave her a gentle squeeze, silently telling her not to worry. And Hinata took that advice and instantly relaxed. So when is the date? Tsunade asked suddenly. Naruto blushed while Hinata couldn't hide a smile to save her life. I would assume you want to do it before Hinata begins to show yes. Yes, they both said in unison and then blushed again. Get back to me with the date as soon as possible then and we'll make preparations from there. I will leave it to the two of you to tell who you wish. Also be sure to tell me if you want this to be a private wedding or if you want a parade in your wake. Naruto, for the time being I'm placing you back under me. Sorry but no missions for a while unless they are unavoidable. Surprisingly, Naruto simply nodded in agreement. After a few more footnotes on what to do, expect and how to do things and what to do next, they left hand in hand and didn't let go even after they were back on the crowded streets. Hinata snuck a glance at him. He seemed so calm, so ready for all this. Meanwhile she was a mess of emotion. She was elated and at the same time apprehensive and downright scared. This was really happening. They were really going to do this. She felt like she was losing her virginity all over again. When they were home again, Hinata made her way to the bed and again let gravity take over her body as she practically fell onto the soft comforter. She heaved a sigh, catching the man's attention who came and sat next to her. What's wrong? Naruto's calm voice broke her train of thoughts and she shook her head. Her eyes matched his and she looked down. It's all happening really fast, she said, looking down at the clasped hands. Without a response, Naruto moved and placed a light kiss on her forehead, and Hinata felt herself instantly relax again. Amazing how he could do that to her. This is what we want, isn't it? He said in a soothingly low voice he save only for her. He said it. This is what we want, both of us. Not just her but him too. This is something they both wanted. It is, she said, locking eyes with him. We're going to be a family. He smiled at her and she felt butterflies erupt inside her. How did she go from being scared and a complete nervous wreck of their future to a giddy little schoolgirl in mere seconds? It's really happening then. Hinata said more to herself than to him, but he answered her none the same. It is. It's really happening. And with that he sealed it with a kiss. Had Hinata been standing she was sure she would have puddled to the floor. Luckily they were on the bed and Naruto was able to lower her down ever so gently. XXX. Naruto and Hinata sat side by side with all of their friends surrounding them. It was now or never. A few faces mixed in the group already knew what was happening. Sakura with Sasuke, who exchanged knowing looks with Naruto and Hinata while idle chatter took place. Ino and Tenten talked giddily of the latest gossip and somehow avoided mentioning anything that concerned herself or Naruto, which was surprising since Hinata knew that's the only thing that she heard nowadays. Kiba and Shino were in deep conversation with Shikamaru and Chuji while Neji seemed to be trying the best way not to glare at Naruto. Since telling Tsunade of their plans for marriage had been a bold move on its own, the couple decided to continue the stride and break the news to their friends that same day. So using the excuse of a long overdue get-together, Hinata and Naruto set up plan to meet their friends at a local ninja hangout they were known to occupy frequently. And when everyone showed up, they took it as just that, a get-together, a chance to forget about ninja ways and be teenagers. Hinata watched them with a smile. Not too long ago she joined Ino and Sakura in the gossip. Funny how already she felt a world away from them. This thought saddened her, but she pushed it away. She had something important to say. Hinata cleared her tea. It was quiet, but it got everyone's attention. With all the attention suddenly on her, the urge to hide under the table was getting very strong. As if sensing this, Naruto squeezed her hand for reassurance. Her voice was small and her face grew red. We have something to say. All the girls at the table seemed to be avoiding looking at everyone else. Ino was playing with her hair. Sakura was taking a long drink, while Ten admired the engravings on the table. Kiba and Shino stared directly at Naruto, and Neji seemed to stop trying not to glare. The air tensed immensely, but again Hinata tried to ignore it. It couldn't be worse than when she told her father after all. I'm sure most of you have heard about it already, but Naruto and she forced herself not stop stuttering, and when Naruto squeezed her hand again she found courage. We're having a baby. A silence was on them, which confused Hinata, seeing as how more than half of the people present already knew this news. And she took the silence to continue. We're engaged. A mixture of faces of complete shock, to completely expect met them before everyone exploded in a ray of commotion. Suddenly they were bombarded with questions from, were they serious to who were they and what the hell happened to the real Naruto and Hinata? It was always something that would happen, Naruto said with an uneasy look on his face, for some reason looking directly at Neji. It just sort of jumped the schedule of things. What about your father, Hinata? Ten asked, concerned. I haven't told him about it. Hinata confessed. She was actually planning on holding that out as long as she possibly could. You knew about this? Ten voiced to Neji, who simply shrugged in response. Yosh, Naruto. Lee jumped up from his spot beside his teammates, knocking the table, sending the drinks shaking. The power of youth is strong with you. Your offspring will be as abundant, it's your strength and love as you are. Thanks Lee, Naruto said, suddenly looking nervous and very uncomfortable. Not to rain on your parade, Kiba started, his stare getting very intense. But you know, blondes, you don't have to marry Hinata just because she's, yeah. This is something Naruto and I have talked a lot about. Hinata spoke for the said blonde, who looked really upset for some reason. And like he said, this is something that was always planned, it just got mixed around a bit. So then you're serious? Ino asked, and everyone got quiet again. Yes, very serious, Naruto said, now calmer than before. Hinata relaxed at his change in behavior. So then, Ten smiled suddenly. When is the said date? Oh, well, we haven't decided. Hinata said, blushing a bit. It's going to be soon, right? Ino chimed with a similar smile. Yes, Hinata nodded. Well Kiba voiced again. Hinata can't get married in a white dress with her baby bump, that's pretty trashy. Kiba. Hinata said, her face now beet red. The said ninja shrugged at the fierce glares at the woman around him. What? He asked, confused. Speaking of which, Shino spoke up. How do you plan to afford this? Well, Hinata continued. I have some of my saving from my account with my family. Assuming you can still use it. Neji voiced, earning a frown from the chestnut-haired girl next to him. Why yes, assuming that. Hinata agreed. She had spoken to Naruto about this too. True, before her father ultimately disowned her, she had her fair share of Hyuga money, but whether she still had it was a coin toss. Naruto, however, expressed no concern for price, which intrigued and confused her. You seem really calm about all this. Kiba nodded to Naruto, who gave a small smile back. I've had my fair share of freakouts already. Naruto laughed, and with some weird joke shared between boys, the others nodded amused. Sasuke looked especially amused. Hinata figured there was a 7 Naruto freakout which only Sasuke saw. Truly they were best friends, but only Naruto saw her freakouts. And Kiba asked, serious again. Hinata saw what he was trying to do. She wondered if Naruto saw it too. Having more would be a bit pointless, wouldn't it? Naruto gave Kiba a sly grin. Kiba stared at the blonde for a moment before a similar grin crossed his own face. Hinata watched Kiba then nodded and it seemed like an understanding was met between them. Boys were so weird. Well then Naruto, Hinata. Shikamaru raised his glass. Catching on the rest followed. To a long and happy life, he said easily and everyone repeated them before clinking the glasses together. In the midst of the commotion and cheers Hinata snuck a glance at her fiancé. She was surprised to see he was looking at her with such a relaxed face but dancing blue eyes. She felt him grab her hand and lace his fingers over hers. And she smiled in response, nuzzling closer to him. Sometimes they didn't need words to say everything they needed to say. XXX. How about this one? Sakura held up a fluffy white dress from the rack. Ino pretended to gag, Tenten scrunched up her nose and Hinata just looked away. In truth it was horrid, so much fluff and ruffles you could hardly see it was a dress. Something a little more simpler. Hinata said, her eyes wandering the rows of white dresses. It felt a bit wrong, shopping for a white dress when there was a baby inside her. But her friends seemed to think white was the only color you were married it regardless of your virginal status or lack thereof, and as a force the three women were not someone you disagreed with. Well, what do you have in mind? Sakura asked, moving aside another very big dress. Well, Hinata said, tilting her head. We talked about something very simple, very private, so I want dress like that too. Simple, but elegant. Hinata said with a slight blush coming from nowhere. How about this one? Ino called from behind a rack of white dresses. The dress she held up took Hinata's breath away. It was perfect on the hanger, it was simple but very elegant. It was straight aligned to the ground, it came off the shoulder just enough to be seen but still modest. There were no designs on to make it fancy, there were no special ruffles or fluff surrounding it, it was just simple yet exactly what Hinata wanted. Try it on. Tenten pushed the girl toward the dress. Hinata took it and went to a dressing room, her friends called to her to come and model it when she was done. In the dressing room Hinata removed her clothes and instantly her hands went to her still flat stomach. How much longer did she have before a baby bump began to form? How much longer until her figure began to change completely? Pushing the thoughts aside, Hinata slipped into the dress that hugged every single curve of her. In the mirror she blushed at herself, she had never worn anything so revealing of her body in her life. It wasn't that it showed any skin to be immodest, it covered her completely, it just showed off every single curve of her body she spent years trying to hide. She spent her whole life hiding behind her jacket to make people look away from her figure she had been so embarrassed about. And now, in this dress it was for the world to see. She might as well go to the wedding. Are you done yet? Ino yelled over the dressing room door. Shaken out of her thoughts, Hinata gulped and opened the door. What she got was not what she expected. She expected gushing words of girlfriends, not complete silence. Instantly Hinata was ready to turn and change. Maybe it looked better on the hanger, she said in a rush voice, beginning to turn when someone caught her hand. She looked and saw Sakura holding her hand lightly and led her to the tri-mirror that stood on a small podium. She made Hinata step in front of the mirror, her friends behind her. That's the dress, Sakura said, standing behind Hinata as she stared at herself in the mirror. Hinata couldn't really refuse, she did love the dress. And once she got over the initial shock of her body being so exposed, she began to feel very comfortable in it. Hinata, you're getting married, Tenten said, her eyes sparkling on the verge of tears. Married? Hinata repeated, now smiling, no, glowing, at herself in the mirror. She was getting married. She was getting married to the man she loved all her life. She was going to spend the rest of her life with the man who fathered her child. She turned around and the girls met her with blinding smiles. This one? She asked, seeking that last bit of reassurance. Definitely that one. You'll have. Naruto struck dumb. Ino giggled and Hinata couldn't help but giggle right back. Suddenly she stopped laughing, her hands went to her stomach. Sakura rushed over, her face suddenly worried, the other girls confused on what was happening. What is it? Does it hurt? Sakura said, her voice full of concern. Just a cramp, I think these are normal. Her hands went to her stomach and she took a shaky breath. This pain wasn't as intense as her previous, it was much more mild. This really did feel like something she read about. She straightened up but a frown was still on her face. Does it still hurt? No, Hinata said, looking up at the pink-haired girl. I'm hungry. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.